My mom smirked. "We already made copies of your apartment key for your sister. Be prepared." That's when I realized what had happened to my missing spare key and replied, "Then prepare for prison too." I'm 29M and I'm absolutely livid right now. I need to get this off my chest because I genuinely cannot believe what my family has done to me. I've been sitting in my apartment for the past 3 hours, staring at the new locks I just had installed, and I'm still shaking with anger. Let me give you some background first. I work as a software engineer and have been living independently since I was 22. I bought my own apartment 2 years ago. No help from family, just my own savings and a mortgage I'm paying off myself. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked incredibly hard for it, pulling 60-hour weeks and living off ramen to save for the down payment. My sister Emily, 27F, is the golden child, always has been. While I was working my way through community college and then state university, she got a full ride to private school, courtesy of our parents, Robert, 55M, and Patricia, 53F. When she graduated with her communications degree, they bought her a car. When she couldn't find a job in her field, they let her move back home, rent-free. When she finally got a part-time job at a boutique, they celebrated like she'd cured cancer. I don't begrudge her the support. I really don't. What I resent is the constant comparison and the expectation that I should be as generous with her as they are. James makes good money. They say James doesn't have kids to worry about. They say James should help family. They say 3 weeks ago, Emily's roommate situation fell through. She'd been living with her boyfriend Tyler, but they broke up after she found out he was seeing someone else. Instead of moving back with our parents, she decided she needed independence and started apartment hunting. The problem, her part-time boutique job doesn't exactly cover Seattle rent prices. My parents called me 2 weeks ago with their solution. Emily would stay with me temporarily while she looked for a place. I said, absolutely not. My apartment is my sanctuary. I work from home 3 days a week. I have my routine, my space organized exactly how I like it. And frankly, Emily and I have very different lifestyles. She's messy loud and has no concept of boundaries. The last time she visited for a weekend, she ate all my meal prep, left makeup stains on my bathroom counter, and had friends over until 3 a.m. on a work night. I thought I'd been crystal clear. I said no repeatedly and offered to help her look for affordable places instead. I even offered to lend her money for a security deposit as a loan with a written agreement. But no, that wasn't good enough for my parents. They insisted family helps family and that I was being selfish with my extra space. For context, I have a 2-bedroom apartment. The second bedroom is my office where I literally work and have thousands of dollars of equipment set up. Fast forward to yesterday. I came home from the gym around 7 p.m. to find Emily in my living room surrounded by boxes and suitcases. She was literally unpacking her things into my apartment. My parents were there too, helping her move in. Acting like this was completely normal. I cannot adequately describe the fury I felt in that moment. The violation, the complete and utter disrespect. When I demanded to know what was happening, my mother Patricia just smiled and said, "We knew you'd come around once you saw how much Emily needed this." My father Robert added, "Don't be dramatic, James. It's just temporary." Emily, meanwhile, was already talking about how she was going to brighten up my bachelor pad and how we could have sibling bonding time. She'd already put her toiletries in my bathroom and hung her clothes in my office closet. I told them all to get out. Immediately, my mother tried to guilt-trip me, saying I was being cruel to my sister in her time of need. My father tried to be stern, telling me this was happening whether I liked it or not. Emily started crying, saying I was being mean and that she had nowhere else to go. But here's the kicker. Here's what sent me into a blind rage. My mother then said, "Well, it doesn't matter what you say. We had copies of your keys made for Emily. She's family and this is happening." They had copies made of the keys. Apparently, they'd taken my spare key during their last visit. I kept it in a kitchen drawer for emergencies and had made multiple copies. They gave Emily her own set and kept a set for themselves. They literally planned this behind my back, knowing I'd say no, and decided to override my autonomy as an adult. I lost it. I told them they had exactly 10 minutes to get everything out of my apartment, or I was calling the police. My father laughed and said I wouldn't call the cops on family. So I did. I called 911 right there and reported a break-in in progress. That got them moving. By the time the police arrived, they were loading Emily's things back into their car with my mother crying about how I was tearing the family apart. I explained the situation to the officers. They couldn't do much since technically no crime had been committed. They had a key even if obtained without permission, but they did tell my family to leave and not return without my permission. The officers also recommended I change my locks immediately and consider security cameras. So that's what I did. Last night, I called an emergency locksmith and had every lock changed, front door, back door, even the windows. It cost me $400, but it was worth every penny. This morning, I installed a Ring doorbell and security cameras covering all entrances. I also called my building's management company and explicitly revoked any permission for my family members to be given access to the building or my apartment for any reason. Then I sent a group text to my parents and Emily with a photo of the new locks and a clear message. I have changed all locks and installed security cameras. Any attempt to enter my apartment without my explicit permission will be considered trespassing and will be met with legal action. I am also prepared to file for restraining orders if necessary. What you did was not just disrespectful. It was a violation of my privacy, my autonomy, and my rights as an adult. I pay for this apartment. My name is on the deed. You have no right to make decisions about who lives here. Emily. I'm sorry your living situation fell through, but that doesn't entitle you to my space. Mom and Dad, your favoritism and manipulation have gone too far this time. Until you can respect my boundaries and apologize for this massive violation, we have nothing to discuss. The responses were immediate and predictable. My mother called me crying, saying I was being cruel, and that family doesn't treat each other this way. My father sent a long text about how disappointed he was in my selfishness and how he raised me better than this. Emily posted on Facebook about how some people forget where they came from and turn their backs on family when they get a little success. But I don't care. I'm done. I'm done being the responsible one who's expected to sacrifice for someone who's never had to work for anything. I'm done with my parents' manipulation and guilt trips. I'm done having my boundaries trampled because family. My phone has been blowing up with calls and texts from extended family. Apparently, my parents have been calling everyone, telling them their version of events, where I'm the villain who threw my poor sister out on the street. I've had cousins, aunts, and uncles all messaging me about how I should be ashamed of myself. My Aunt Linda even said, "Your parents just wanted to help Emily, and you're acting like they committed a crime." Yes, Linda. Breaking into someone's home and moving someone in against their will is a crime. It's called trespassing and possibly breaking and entering regardless of family relation. I've had to mute my phone and set up an automatic response explaining that I'm taking a break from family drama and will respond when I'm ready. The only person who's been supportive is my cousin Michael, who went through something similar with his parents, trying to move his brother into his house without permission. He told me to stay strong and that I did the right thing. I'm sitting here now in my apartment with my new locks, knowing I did the right thing, but feeling like absolute garbage. Part of me wonders if I overreacted, but then I remember coming home to find someone literally moving into my space without my consent, and I get angry all over again. This isn't about Emily needing help. I offered to help in ways that respected my boundaries. This is about my parents thinking they can control my life and my property because they're my parents. I know they're going to escalate. I know this isn't over. My mother has already texted saying that I'm no longer welcome at Thanksgiving unless I apologize to Emily. My father has threatened to write me out of his will. Joke's on him. I never expected anything anyway. Emily has been posting passive-aggressive memes about fake family and people who forget their roots, but I'm holding firm. This is my hill to die on. You don't get to invade someone's home and then play victim when they protect themselves. You don't get to violate someone's clearly stated boundaries and then act shocked when there are consequences. Am I the here? Because half my family is acting like I committed murder and I'm starting to question my own sanity. Update 1. 5 days later. Well, I knew it would escalate, but I didn't expect it to happen this fast or this dramatically. I'm updating because I need to document this insanity. And honestly, I need the support because I'm dealing with a level of family crazy I never thought possible. Remember those security cameras I installed? Best $300 I ever spent. They've already paid for themselves in ways I couldn't have imagined. 2 days after my original post, I was working from home when I got a motion alert on my phone. I pulled up the camera feed to see Emily at my door with what looked like a locksmith. I couldn't believe it. I immediately started recording on my phone as backup and called 911 to report an attempted break-in in progress. I then went to my door without opening it and called out, "Emily, you're on camera. I can see you. Leave immediately or I'm pressing charges." The locksmith looked confused and asked Emily if this was her residence. She actually said yes. She told him she'd been locked out by her roommate after an argument and needed to get back into our apartment. I opened the door just enough to show the locksmith my ID and lease agreement. This is my apartment. Only my name is on the lease. She does not live here and has never lived here. She's my sister trying to break into my home. The locksmith immediately backed off, apologizing and saying he'd been misled. He left despite Emily begging him to help her. Emily then proceeded to have a complete meltdown in my hallway. She was screaming about how I was ruining her life, how she had nowhere to go, how I was a terrible brother. She actually sat down in front of my door and refused to move, saying she'd stay there until I let her in. I gave her one warning to leave, then called the police. When the officers arrived, same ones from before, actually. Emily tried to play the victim, saying we'd had a roommate dispute, and I'd illegally evicted her. Fortunately, I had everything documented: the lease, the security footage, the previous police report. The officers told Emily she was trespassing and needed to leave. They also warned her that if she returned, she'd be arrested. But wait, it gets better. An hour after Emily left, my parents showed up. They didn't try to enter. They'd learned that lesson, but they stood outside my door for 20 minutes with my mother Patricia calling through the door about how I was destroying the family, how Emily was staying in a hotel because of me, a lie. She's back at their house, and how they never thought they'd raise such a heartless son. My father Robert tried a different approach, saying that if I didn't help Emily, they'd never forgive me and I'd be dead to them. He actually said, "You're choosing your precious apartment over your family. When we're gone, you'll regret this." I recorded everything through my door camera. Every word, every guilt trip, every manipulation tactic. When they finally left, I sent them a cease and desist letter I'd had a lawyer friend help me draft. It stated that any further attempts to enter my property or harass me would result in legal action. The family explosion after that was nuclear. My phone blew up with messages from relatives I haven't heard from in years. The narrative my parents were spinning was that I'd made Emily homeless and called the police on her for simply asking for help. They conveniently left out the part about trying to break in with a locksmith or their previous forced entry. My Aunt Karen called me screaming about family values. My Uncle David sent a long email about how success had gone to my head. Cousins I barely know were commenting on Emily's Facebook posts, calling me heartless and selfish. Emily herself posted a photo of herself crying with the caption, "When your own brother treats you worse than a stranger would." But here's where things took an interesting turn. My cousin Michael, the one who'd been supportive, commented on Emily's post with screenshots of my security footage. "Emily with a locksmith, my parents harassing me at my door." He wrote, "Maybe tell the whole story, Emily. Breaking into someone's home isn't asking for help." The comments section exploded. Some family members doubled down, saying I should have let her in regardless. Others started questioning the narrative they'd been fed. A few reached out to me privately, apologizing for jumping to conclusions and asking for my side of the story. I've started a folder documenting everything, every text, every email, every social media post, all the security footage. My lawyer friend Daniel says I have enough for a restraining order if I want one, especially with Emily's attempted break-in and my parents' continued harassment. Yesterday, my workplace HR department called me in. Apparently, my mother had somehow found their number and called to tell them I was having a mental health crisis and needed help. She actually told them I was acting erratically and cutting off family for no reason, suggesting I might be a danger to myself or others. Fortunately, my boss knows me well and recognized this as harassment. But I had to explain the situation and provide documentation that I was fine and being stalked by my family. That was the last straw. I've officially filed for restraining orders against all three of them. I also sent a formal letter to my extended family with the security footage and a timeline of events, making it clear that anyone who continues to harass me on their behalf will be cut off as well. The flying monkeys have mostly retreated, though I'm still getting the occasional passive-aggressive message. Emily has started a GoFundMe for her emergency housing situation, claiming she's been made homeless by family. It's raised $200, mostly from her friends who don't know the full story. My mental health has taken a hit. I'm not sleeping well. I jump every time I get a notification, and I've had to take a few days off work to deal with the legal stuff. But I don't regret standing my ground. This needed to happen. The fact that they escalated to literally trying to break in and then calling my workplace shows just how toxic and controlling they really are. I've started therapy to deal with the guilt and stress. My therapist says I'm dealing with a narcissistic family system where I'm the scapegoat who broke free and they can't handle losing control. It helps to have professional validation that I'm not crazy or cruel, I'm just protecting myself. I'll update again after the restraining order hearing. For now, I'm focusing on work, keeping my doors locked, and remembering that I have the right to peace in my own home. Update 2-3 weeks later. The restraining order hearing was yesterday and I have a lot to update. Buckle up, because this gets absolutely insane. First, let me back up to 2 weeks ago. After I filed for the restraining orders, things went quiet for about a week. I thought maybe they'd finally gotten the message. I was wrong. They were just regrouping and planning their next attack. It started with Emily showing up at my workplace. Security wouldn't let her in. Thank God I'd warned them, but she stood outside the building for 2 hours with a sign that said, "My brother James works here," and made me homeless. Security eventually called the police and she was issued a warning for harassment. My company has been incredibly supportive and even offered to have their legal team assist with my restraining orders. Then my parents tried a new tactic: welfare checks. They called the police 3 times in 1 week, claiming they were concerned about my mental health and that I might be in danger. Each time officers came to my door. I explained the situation, showed them my documentation, and they left. The third officer actually told me to expedite the restraining orders because this was clear harassment. But the real drama came 4 days before the hearing. I woke up at 3 a.m. to my security alarm going off. I checked the cameras to see Emily trying to climb through my bedroom window from the fire escape. She'd actually brought a crowbar and was trying to pry the window open. I called 911 immediately. This time she was arrested, attempted breaking and entering, trespassing, and possession of burglary tools. She spent the night in jail before my parents bailed her out. You'd think this would be rock bottom, but no. The next day my parents sent me a letter from a lawyer. They were threatening to sue me for emotional distress and defamation for sharing the security footage with family members. They also claimed I owed Emily money for illegally evicting her from an apartment she never lived in and causing her financial hardship. Their lawyer seemed sketchy, and a quick Google search showed he'd been reprimanded by the Bar Association twice. I forwarded everything to Daniel, my lawyer friend, who officially took my case pro bono. He sent a response that essentially said their claims were baseless and that continuing to harass me would only strengthen my restraining order case. He also pointed out that sharing factual security footage of crimes being committed wasn't defamation. It was evidence. The restraining order hearing was yesterday morning. I thought it would be straightforward given all the evidence, but my family turned it into a circus. They all showed up, not just my parents and Emily, but also my aunts Linda and Karen, my uncle David, and several cousins. They'd clearly coordinated their outfits to look like a grieving family, all in black like they were at a funeral. Emily took the stand first and spun a tale of woe about how I'd promised she could stay with me, then changed my mind and threw her out, leaving her homeless and destitute. She actually cried on cue, claiming she was so desperate that she just wanted to talk to me through the window. When my lawyer presented the security footage of her with the crowbar, she claimed she was just trying to return a tool I'd lent her. The judge's face was priceless. My mother, Patricia, testified that I'd been mentally unstable lately, cutting off family for no reason and acting paranoid. She suggested I might be on drugs or having a psychological break. When my lawyer asked her about making copies of my keys without permission, she said it was just what families do and that she was concerned about my safety. My father, Robert, tried to play the stern patriarch, saying this was a family matter that didn't belong in court and that I was bringing shame on our family name by airing private disputes. He actually told the judge that as my father, he had a right to access my home to check on my well-being. The judge had to explain that parental rights don't extend to breaking into adult children's homes. When it was my turn, I presented everything chronologically: the texts, the emails, the security footage, the police reports, the workplace harassment, the false welfare checks. My lawyer had organized it all into a clear timeline that showed a pattern of escalating harassment and attempted illegal entry. The judge asked Emily directly if she had ever lived in my apartment or had any legal claim to residency there. She tried to dodge the question, but ultimately had to admit that no, she'd never actually lived there. The judge then asked my parents if they had made copies of my keys without my permission. They tried to justify it, but had to admit that yes, they had. The judge granted all 3 restraining orders, 2 years for each of them. They cannot come within 500 feet of my home or workplace, cannot contact me directly or through third parties, and cannot post about me on social media. The judge specifically noted that the escalation from unauthorized key copying to attempted break-in with tools showed a dangerous pattern that justified the protection orders. The courtroom erupted. My mother started wailing about how I was killing her, that she'd never see her son again. My father called me a disgrace to the family name. Emily screamed that I'd ruined her life and she'd make me pay. The judge had to threaten them with contempt to get them to leave. As they were leaving, my Aunt Linda loudly said, "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family." My cousin Michael, who'd come to support me, responded, "No, they destroyed it when they tried to break into his home. He just refused to be a victim." Last night, the family Facebook drama reached new heights. Emily posted about the injustice of the court system protecting abusers, meaning me, while leaving victims, meaning her, homeless. My parents posted about losing their son to mental illness and asked for prayers. The extended family is completely divided. About half think I'm right. Half think I'm the devil incarnate. But here's the beautiful thing. I don't care anymore. I'm free. For the first time in my life, I don't have to worry about them showing up uninvited. I don't have to deal with the guilt trips, the manipulation, the complete disregard for my boundaries. My apartment is truly mine now. My company has been amazing through all this. They've offered me the option to work fully remote for a while if I need to, and they've even provided some free counseling sessions through our employee assistance program. My boss told me she's proud of me for standing up for myself and that she's seen too many people let family destroy their lives because they're afraid to set boundaries. I've also been overwhelmed by support from unexpected places. Old college friends who saw the drama unfold on social media have reached out. My neighbors who witnessed some of the harassment have offered to be witnesses if I need them. Even my landlord called to say he supports me and has added my family to the building's banned list. The therapy has been helping a lot. My therapist says this extinction burst the escalation before they finally accept the boundaries is actually a good sign. It means the boundaries are working. She's helped me see that I've been programmed since childhood to sacrifice my needs for Emily's wants. And breaking that programming is like breaking an addiction. I'm planning to stay strong with the no contact even after the restraining orders expire. I've changed my emergency contact at work to Michael, updated my will to exclude them entirely, and remove them from any banking or medical authorizations they might have had. I'm also considering moving once my lease is up, not because I'm running, but because I want a fresh start somewhere they've never been. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm sleeping better knowing they legally can't come near me. I'm focusing on my work, my friendships, and building a chosen family of people who actually respect me. It's lonely sometimes, especially with the holidays coming up. But it's a peaceful kind of lonely, not the chaotic stress I've lived with for years. Final update, 3 months later. I wasn't planning to update again, but something major has happened that feels like the ultimate vindication of everything I've done to protect myself. After the restraining orders were granted, life got peaceful, beautifully, wonderfully peaceful. I could come home without anxiety. I could work without checking my security cameras every hour. I could exist without constant guilt trips and manipulation. I started to heal and build a life free from toxic family dynamics. My extended family remained split. Some relatives quietly reached out to maintain a relationship with me, careful not to violate the restraining orders by passing messages. Others cut me off entirely. I was fine with both. My cousin Michael became closer than ever. We now have weekly dinners, and he's become the brother I always wanted. About 6 weeks after the restraining orders, I got a call from this district attorney's office. Remember Emily's attempted break-in with the crowbar? They were pressing charges, criminal trespassing, and attempted burglary. The security footage was crystal clear, and with my testimony and the pattern of harassment, they felt they had a strong case. Emily apparently thought the restraining orders meant the criminal charges would go away. She was wrong. When she was formally charged, she lost her job at the boutique. Turns out, having pending burglary charges doesn't look great in retail. My parents hired her a lawyer, but not a good one. They'd spent most of their savings on the previous lawyer for the restraining order hearing and couldn't afford quality representation. The trial was last week. I testified about the pattern of harassment, the unauthorized key copying the multiple attempts to break into my home. The prosecution presented all the security footage, the police reports, the documentation of the escalating behavior. Emily's defense was basically that she was desperate and just wanted to talk to me. The crowbar, her lawyer argued, was for self-defense because she was scared to be out at night. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all charges. Emily was sentenced to 6 months in jail, suspended to probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory therapy, and she has to pay restitution for my security system and lock changes. She also now has a criminal record, which will follow her forever. The judge called her behavior an egregious violation of personal boundaries and said she showed a concerning pattern of escalation that could have resulted in serious harm. My parents were devastated. In their minds, this was all my fault for involving the law in a family matter. But here's where things get interesting. During the trial, something else came to light. Emily had done this before. One of her ex-boyfriends came forward after seeing news about the trial on local Facebook groups. She tried to break into his apartment after their breakup, claiming she lived there and needed to get her things. He'd never pressed charges because her parents paid him off and begged him not to ruin her life. This information came out after the verdict, but it validated everything I'd felt about her behavior. This wasn't just about her being desperate for housing. This was a pattern of refusing to accept boundaries and believing she was entitled to other people's spaces. The family explosion after the verdict was nuclear, but different this time. Some relatives who'd been on Emily's side reached out to apologize. My Aunt Linda sent me a long email saying she'd been wrong and that she was sorry for not seeing how serious the situation was. Even my Uncle David called to say he understood why I'd done what I did. The most shocking development came yesterday. My parents reached out through their lawyer, asking if I'd be willing to do family mediation, not to reconcile, but to process what had happened. According to the letter, they've been in therapy court mandated for Emily, voluntary for them, and their therapist suggested family mediation to address the systemic issues that led to the situation. The letter included something I never thought I'd see: an admission of wrongdoing, not an apology, but an acknowledgement that they had overstepped boundaries and failed to respect my autonomy as an adult. They admitted to showing favoritism to Emily and putting unfair expectations on me. They even acknowledged that making copies of my keys was wrong and that they'd enabled Emily's problematic behavior. I haven't decided about the mediation yet. The restraining orders are still in effect, so it would have to be done through lawyers or after they expire. Part of me wants to try to see if there's any hope of a functional relationship, but a bigger part of me is happy with the peace I found and doesn't want to risk opening that door again. My therapist says the fact that I even have a choice is huge progress. 6 months ago, I would have jumped at any chance for family reconciliation, no matter how toxic. Now I'm actually considering what's best for me, not what would make them happy or what would look good to extended family. I've since moved to a new apartment, not out of fear, but because I got a promotion and could afford a better place. It's in a building with doorman security, which gives me extra peace of mind. I didn't tell anyone in my family except Michael about the move. It feels like a fresh start, a place that was never tainted by their invasion. The most important thing I've learned from all this is that family isn't a free pass to violate boundaries. Blood relation doesn't grant ownership over your life, your space, or your decisions. You have the right to protect yourself even from family, especially from family, if they're the ones causing harm. I've also learned that when you stand up to toxic behavior, you find out who really supports you. I lost some family members, but I gained deeper relationships with others. I strengthened friendships with people who respected my boundaries from the start. I built a chosen family that treats me with more love and respect than my birth family ever did. To anyone dealing with similar situations, document everything. Stand your ground, get legal help. Don't let guilt make you a doormat. You deserve peace in your own home. You deserve relationships that don't require you to sacrifice your safety and sanity. It's not selfish to protect yourself, it's necessary. As for Emily, she's living with our parents and doing her community service. I heard through Michael that she's been telling people she's the victim of a misunderstanding, but most people aren't buying it anymore. Criminal conviction tends to change the narrative. My parents are apparently in coups therapy, dealing with the reality that they're enabling created this situation. They've lost most of their savings on legal fees. Their daughter has a criminal record, and their son has a restraining order against them, all because they couldn't respect a simple no. I sometimes wonder how different things could have been if they'd just accepted my boundary from the start. If they'd respected my no about Emily moving in, if they hadn't made those keys, if they hadn't tried to force their will on me, we might still be a family, a dysfunctional one, but still connected. But they made their choices, and I made mine. I chose myself. I chose peace. I chose safety. And despite the pain and drama it took to get here, I'd make the same choice again. My new apartment is quiet. My life is calm. My future is mine to decide. And that's worth more than a toxic family connection could ever be.